This is the New Balance 1080 version 14. It's New Balance's most popular running shoe. And they made some big changes from the 12 to the 13. And even though the changes from 13 to this, the 14, are incremental, they're still worth checking out. Let's get into it. Before we get started, I do just want to say this video is in collaboration with my friends over at Roadrunner Sports. Now, Roadrunner Sports was good enough to send me this pair of the 1080 V14 for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say. They don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you're going to be able to pick up a pair of the New Balance 1080 version 14 from Roadrunner Sports for $165. And of course, I'll place links in the show notes below in case you want to pick up a pair for yourself. Now, look, first of all, I've got to say, I didn't run in version 13. It's been a couple of years since I've run in the 1080. Actually, I think it was version 11. I've got to say, I just wasn't a fan. But the changes that they made in V13 and now bringing those changes over with a few tweaks into V14 have made it a solid daily trainer. So the stack height remains the same from 13 to this year. The 14, we have 38 in the heel, 32 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. New Balance claims that in a US men's size 9, it'll tip the scale at 10.5 ounces or 298 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 12.5, it tips the scale at 11.8 ounces or 335 grams. Now yes, you did hear me right. I wear a size 12.5 in New Balance shoes. For years, I was wearing size 13 in New Balance shoes, and the upper just had so much volume that I was having to cinch those eyelet chains really close together. But since I have gone to 12.5, everything just works a lot better. So even though I do wear size 13 in most other shoes, if you have worn any New Balance shoes before, keep the same size. In 12.5, the 1080 version 14 fits me the same as every other New Balance shoe in 12.5. Speaking of 12.5, there is another brand that I always wear 12.5 in, and that's Hoka, and this is the Skyflow, and this is going to be competition for the 1080 V14. Now the Skyflow will cost $160, which is $5 less than the 1080 version 14, and we have 40 in the heel, 35 in the forefoot for a 5mm drop. It also weighs in at 339 grams, which is 4 grams more than my size in the New Balance. Another comparable that you may think about if you're thinking of picking up the 1080 version 14 is the Adidas Ultra Boost 5X. Now this is a little more expensive. This is $180, so it's $15 more than the 1080 version 14, and it weighs 340 grams, which is 5 grams more than the 1080 version 14. Gosh, I'm struggling with that name. And the Ultra Boost 5X has 38 in the heel, 28 in the forefoot for a 10mm drop. Now as far as ride goes, I think these two are pretty similar, but again, it's quite a bit more expensive. The only thing I will give the Ultra Boost 5X over the 1080 version 14 is that I think it looks just a lot better. Now there are a couple other colorways in the 1080 version 14 that I think look better than this, but of course beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I guess this is okay. Anyway, let's start at the top and work our way down. You can see we've got a good padding around the heel collar. Oh, by the way, this is a daily trainer. Right, it's going to be good for those recovery runs, those easy runs, those long runs, and it's not horrible at picking up the pace. Now we'll talk more about that in the ride section. Now the padding is heavily biased to the top of the heel collar, which I absolutely love, because when your heel goes in, it kind of slips past the padding and then gets locked in there. Now the heel counter is super rigid. I have no issues with heel slip in here, and the step-in feel is really top notch. Now a big update for version 14 over version 13 is the upper. Now New Balance is using a triple jacquard mesh upper, and basically in a nutshell they've made it a lot more breathable. And if I hold that up, perhaps I'm going to have to overlay something, but there are a lot of holes over this toe box. And overall I found the shoe fairly breathable. Now you got to remember, I'm living in Florida, it's very warm all the time. In my testing miles I was soaking this shoe through, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't like a knit upper shoe that's like wearing a jumper on my feet. I thought the breathability was acceptable, even though there are quite a few overlays. We've got the N on the lateral side, smaller N with some overlays here on the medial side. There's a little structure here at the midfoot section, which is going to give a good midfoot lockdown. And then there's a lot of structure coming around the toe box and around the base, just above the midsole foam, just to give that structure so your foot has something to slide into. We've got the standard overlays coming along the eyelet chain, and the 1080 version 14 does have that extra hole, so if you need to do the lace lock, you can. As far as the midsole foam goes, it is the same Fresh Foam X as in version 13, but New Balance has made a little tweak. They made the formulation just slightly firmer. And I hate that I actually have to say that, because I think saying firm has negative connotations, especially because so many people loved how soft and plush version 13 was. Well, obviously New Balance has done their research, and they don't just want to change something for the sake of changing it. And although I know it's not going to work for everyone, I found the softness in the Fresh Foam X in version 14 just absolutely spot on. You know how when you're running in a shoe that's just too soft and it seems to just zap your power with every step? Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't get that at all with the Fresh Foam X in version 14. Oh, New Balance has also tweaked tweak the geometry just slightly to give it a little more toe spring, and that's going to contribute to an enhanced rolling motion through your gait cycle, so the whole ride just seems a little smoother, and it's going to give you a little more pep coming off your forefoot. And I've got to say, that feeling was there. I mean, this is a daily trainer. It's good for recovery, easy, long runs. And this is what I meant about it being able to pick up the pace. Now, I should clarify this next statement by saying that I was testing several other daily trainers while I was testing the 1080 version 14. And, you know, daily trainers, they're often not the most exciting shoes, but what I found was, at least comparing with some other daily trainers, that the 1080 version 14 felt a little peppier than them, which I think is exactly what New Balance is going for, because they want the 1080 to be kind of like the jack of all trades, or the jack of all shoes. And ideally, I think the type of person that gravitates to the 1080 version 14 is going to be someone that has one or two shoes in their shoe lineup, because the 1080 version 14 is good at most things. It's excellent at recovery and easy and long runs, but when you need to do strides, if you need to throw in intervals once in a while, it can do that and it doesn't feel bad. It doesn't feel like it's sapping your energy when you're trying to get more out of the shoe. Now, if we come down to the outsole, we can see we got, you know, there's not too much outsole rubber coverage, but it's in all the key areas, right here in the middle of your forefoot. And I do like that we have this much exposed midsole foam, because obviously it's saving weight. Now, version 14 is just slightly heavier than version 13, so keep that in the back of your mind if you're deciding between version 13 and 14. As far as wear and longevity goes, yeah, I'm seeing a little wear up on my forefoot, and again, right here on my heel, but there is really enough rubber here where I feel like this is going to last an average number of miles. Oh, just looking at it, I'm realizing New Balance did make another change. They raised the sidewalls of this Fresh Foam X. So in version 14, you do sit a little more in the shoe with those sidewalls coming around your feet, so the ride is going to be a little more stable. And I guess some form of inherent stability is what we need, of course, when we're running on such a big stack height. Now, I did say that this shoe is probably for someone that wants one shoe to do it all, but if you really wanted to up your game and get another shoe, I would definitely recommend pairing the 1080 version 14 with the SC Trainer V3. And I've got to tell you that I would be very happy if these were the only two shoes that I had, because I would use the 1080 version 14 for my daily runs, for my easy runs, for my long runs. And then when it came time to pick up the pace with intervals, with tempo runs, and even race day, I think the SC Trainer V3 is a solid option. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever run in any of the 1080s? Are you thinking about picking up a pair of the 1080 version 14? Drop a comment and let me know. But for now, it's Matt V. This has been my review of the New Balance 1080 version 14. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.